All right, I'm going to do my second video for the day, and I think I'm going to title it When Contractors Leave the Building. It's sort of like Elvis has left the building, but it's not Elvis. Well, that'd be cool if it was Elvis. But what I want you to notice is the Santa can disappeared. This is still an active construction site, but the porta potty's gone. Yes, and notice there's no dumpster. It's an active construction site. And on top of that, there used to be a sign out here for Wassa Homes, for lands. And that disappeared earlier this week when I was gone. But you don't see a carcass of a sign anywhere. You see my building permit over there, but that's gone as well. So one can possibly assume that the contractor has left the building, that he's basically decided not to do the job anymore, unilaterally as far as I know. And I'm speculating here. I'm speculating that this is a reflection of a month ago when he wanted the fourth and final payment on the house, and I said, no, the house isn't done. Well, very little progress has been made in the last month, except we no longer have a porta potty. We no longer have a sign on the street. We no longer have a dumpster, and nothing's being done. Essentially, nothing's being done. So I see that as sort of, I don't get my way, so I'm going to stop playing. And I don't feel that way. I've asked the contractor repeatedly to take the time to fix the problems. I think he's shown up once, maybe twice in the last month, and nothing's being done. So we come back to this book, which you may have seen before. I sometimes lose track of it. And this has in it all of the issues. See, it was dated March 14th when it was first offered to him. And I won't bore you with all the details, but it goes through all the defects and deficiencies and things that need to be done. And some have been done, some haven't. The point is that nothing's being done, and it feels like the contractor has left the building. One, because all the stuff that I pointed outside is gone, and two, he doesn't show up. But that's not unusual. When the house was being worked on by the subcontractors, it was unusual for my contractor to show up. I've since learned from talking to other people that that's an unusual behavior. Most people, their contractors show up every day. They review the subcontractor's work. That wasn't the case with my Lance. He didn't show up, didn't review the work. And as a result, we've had a lot of deficiencies. I just put up a video, or will, about the insulation being inadequate. You would think that any contractor who's been around would have double-checked the work done by the insulators. That didn't happen. So the end result is we have a ceiling with no insulation. Another interesting one is I showed you a while back where one of the subcontractors, bless their heart, two of them actually, Raphael and Kevin, had to pull this window out, replumb it, reinstall it, refoam it. Now that was something that was done. I pointed that out, and at the time my contractor wanted me to make the decision, so I gave it some thought. He wanted to make a decision what should be done, and I simply said, pull the window out, replumb it, replace it. But he was asking me to make the decision that the builder should make. And if you look now, other than the fact that there's no paint here, which is hard to see because the camera's messed up with the light coming through the window, it's plumb. Now I do have an appointment to have Wasco, W-A-S-C-O, come out in a couple weeks, and we can readjust the window, because now that it's plumb, the windows don't open and close, which is to be expected. So what to do when a contractor leaves the building? You know, that is a good question. Wisconsin has a lot of laws that protect the builder, and I understand why. Builders are subject to the finicky nature of buyers. They don't want to be harassed. And I get it, but I don't feel asking for the insulation that I paid for is being difficult. I don't think that having paint done where there is no paint, like around that window, is being difficult. At least I don't. And I've reviewed it with a number of friends. And I believe that asking for my garage floor to be returned to its pre-paint, pre-mud, pre-drywall, pre-dirt state is unreasonable. I mean, this thing is filthy. Yet it appears that some people think I'm being unreasonable, potentially my contractor. I mean, that is just filthy. So he's known about some of these issues for months and has done nothing. So the dilemma is, how do you approach a problem like that? In Wisconsin, you have the Metropolitan Builders Association. And I will try to find that in here. And what they do is provide a service that you pay for, where they mediate, and then if that doesn't work, they arbitrate. So there's the Milwaukee Builders, or Metropolitan Builders Association, Construction Industry Quality Standards. And all it deals with is basically construction. So that is one approach. The other approach is breach of contract. Now, breach of contract, not well understood, so I'll take a minute to discuss it. This house was promised to be done 180 days after construction began. Construction began on July 8th. Roughly 180 days is January 8th. I may be off by a day, but it doesn't really matter. So to get a breach of contract, someone has to have failed to meet their deadlines. Now, this has nothing to do specifically with the quality of the construction or the fact that the sink still isn't hooked up or there's no disposal. Those are building industry standards or construction industry quality standards. That's a separate issue. Breach of contract is, I promised to deliver a product on this date and I didn't deliver it. It can be computers, widgets, telephones. It can be all sorts of stuff. It doesn't particularly relate to construction. It can. And in this case, we're 3.5 months behind. And then for some of you who may or may not remember, back in the middle of March, when my good friend Sean was with me, we were standing here with the contractor, in this room no less. And Sean asked Lance, when will you be done? And Lance said, the end of the month, the end of March. Well, that has come and gone because now we're in April. So that's a second breach of contract. Understand that. So we have the written breach, which is in the contract. And then we have an oral statement that he would have it done at the end of March. So that's a second breach. Now it appears when I talked to Lance, he didn't understand the concept of breach. He thought everything would be handled by the Metropolitan Builders Association. Well, I called these folks, and guess what they said? They don't deal with legal matters. And a breach is a legal matter. It's Wisconsin state law. It requires attorneys, a judge, all that stuff. Now, that's frightfully expensive. Anybody who's hired an attorney knows it's frightfully expensive. Now, attorneys are worth their $300 an hour. I will never dispute that. They work hard, they get a law degree, they have experience. They should be paid for their knowledge. But it can take 30, 40 hours, 50, 100. And when you multiply 300 times 50, you do the math. That's $15,000 when all it would have taken was installing the appliances, fixing the insulation. We still haven't fixed the lack of paint there, cleaning the garage floor. Which do you think is less expensive? $15,000 in legal fees or just finishing the job? Now, January 8th has come and gone. I have been told I'm way too patient. I don't know if this house will be done on July 8th or August 8th. I don't know, because when I asked my contractor why the delay, his reply was, because he's under a lot of stress. I was speechless, which is rare, when he said the reason the house isn't done is because he's under a lot of stress. 3.5 months after the official completion date by contract, his only explanation so far has been he's under stress. Okay, I don't know what that means. I know what it means in a practical sense. I'm still living in an apartment. I'm paying for an apartment, and I'm paying for the cost of this house. I'm paying for electricity in the apartment. I'm paying for electricity in this house. So I have to double up on my expenses because my contractor, quote, is under a lot of stress. Now, we got an occupancy permit last week, which is great. And I probably explained that occupancy permits are the lowest standard possible because they're done by the state of Wisconsin. And it says that the house is minimally adequate for occupancy. What that means, you've got a sink, you've got a place to bathe, you have a toilet, and you have heat. That's it. This floor can be raw concrete. There doesn't even have to be a floor. That's what occupancy permit means. But the problem is, once you occupy a building, you've essentially taken it per Wisconsin law. So if I were to occupy this building, which my contractor seems adamant on having me to do, that means I've accepted the building as is. Now, how many people know that? How many people who are excited to move into their home and trust their contractor and understand, say, my contractor would never do anything to hurt me, then find out after they've assumed occupancy of a building that isn't remotely close to being done, that they're stuck with what they got, and from 12 months after that, they have to beg the contractor to fix all the problems. I don't think many people do, and it's sort of sad that the contractor, who presumably knows this fact, I don't know that Lance knows this. I have no proof he knows it or doesn't know it, but he's been in the business for a while. He probably, if I had to guess, does know it. Well, if he does know it, and he's doing this kind of nonsense, shame on you. And if he doesn't know it, if he clearly is unaware of what's going on, well, that's sad, because he should know what's going on. So either way, shame on you. That's too bad. So what do you do when your contractor has left the building? That's a tough one. You're sort of forced to hire an attorney because the contractor is not responding to logic. The logic is finish the house. He's had that book of deficiencies, which he refused to take for a month. And essentially, none of it's been done. I mean, some of it's been done, don't get me wrong. But when you have one subcontractor show up once a week, this week, no subcontractors, last week, no subcontractors, you sort of wonder, how enthusiastic would your contractor be, whether it's mine, Lance, or yours, whatever name that is, to getting things done if you've occupied the house, assumed responsibility for it, and you get to live in a building that isn't done. I mean, I don't have a kitchen sink that's hooked up. I don't have a disposal that's installed. I'm willing to pay for it. I'm willing to pay extra, but somebody has to show up. I still don't have a glass partition. How do you take a shower in the shower if there's no partition? So you're between a rock and a hard spot. And that's where I'm at. As much as I like this fellow and have always enjoyed his company, I've lost faith. I don't trust him anymore. And the lack of trust isn't because I'm some weirdo. It's because what he's failed to do. He's earned, this is odd, he's earned my lack of trust. I just don't trust him. He says one thing and he does another. So I'm going to get to sit in an apartment for God knows how long, waiting for a contractor who has all the cards in his hand to do something that doesn't seem interested in doing. And then, as I pointed out at the beginning of the video, all the symbols of a building being built, the porta potty, the dumpster, the sign, they've all disappeared. It's as if he's decided not to work on the house anymore. And functionally, he stopped working on the house. The subcontractors aren't showing up. Nothing's being done. The book has been available to him for over a month with all the deficiencies, everything. And so what else am I to conclude? I don't know. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it doesn't seem too weird, but it's always good for me to document things in videos so that should there be a need for it in 2 months, 6 months, 8 months, I actually have a real-time record. So I will talk to you later. Well, Bye. It's still Thursday, April 22nd, 22nd. And someone asked me, well, how do you know if a subcontractor is showing up or anybody's doing any work? Because you're not living in the house. And I thought, well, that's a great question. And I know the answer. If you look up in that tree, let me see if I can get it. You'll see a camera sitting up there. Now, early on, I was told, make sure you monitor the site. That way you can see who's coming and going, etc., etc. And that's what I did. I've been monitoring this site with an Arlo, A-R-L-O, Go camera, which is a cellular network camera. It doesn't require Wi-Fi. And it has proven to be invaluable because, of course, like I said, I don't live here. But I want to know what's going on. So every time a contractor shows up, the camera gives me a signal and it gives me a video. I can see who's here, what they're doing, if the garage door is open, all that stuff. And then I'll hop in my car and I'll scoot on over, meet and greet the contractors, and lo and behold, the subcontractors, and in essence, do the work of the contractor. There, I keep coming back to that theme again. Oh, I can't believe it. I just feel now in hindsight that the contractor should be the one who knows when people are here and come over and inspect their work. But I got to do that job and I don't regret it. It was a great experience. I've said that before and I'll say it a million times over. The subcontractors, almost without exception, were wonderful people. The drywall people, the mudding people, the painting people, not so much. They were pretty inadequate, but I've discussed that before. This is nothing new. But what you have to do is mount a camera. And like I said, since I don't have Wi-Fi out here, the question is, how do you do it? Well, you mount a cellular network camera, which looks at the house. And I get little pictures saying, hey, somebody's here. So that's proven to be very helpful. I'm glad someone asked me, well, how do you know when somebody's coming and going when you're not there? Well, it's simple. And I thought I had explained that before, but it doesn't hurt to do it twice. I do love the questions. And now I'm waiting for Spectrum. Now 9:40. They said between 9 and 10, so it's still not 10. I'm okay with that. And I've had some pleasant time out here doing some videos and just walking around. It's about 45 degrees. It's sunny. There's a little breeze coming out of the northwest. Sort of typical for spring. So I love you all. Thank you for watching the videos. I talk to you later. Bye.